Hi everyone, it's Blaze Van Heck here. I am currently in Ararat. So I have been on a road trip for the last week and I have visited Geelong, Port Fairy, Mount Gambier, Adelaide. I'm now in Ararat. I'm going to be at the Ararat Library this afternoon, and then tomorrow I'm in Ballarat and then I come home. So it's been actually a real eye-opener for me because I have had so many conversations with people about their writing and the blocks that they have, or the roadblocks that they come up against when they are writing. And I was not surprised, but it kind of cemented a lot of things to me when I had a conversation with someone who's writing a book, and they had written 3 chapters and they asked someone who was an editor to look at it and give them some feedback. Now, when they sat down together to talk about it, this editor just went for the jugular by the sounds of it in terms of the feedback. The questions were, you can't write, who are you to write a book? You're not famous. What the hell are you doing? And as you can imagine, getting that kind of feedback is not constructive. And that person was devastated and actually put away their writing for 3 months. Now, luckily, she actually took it out again and got someone else to look at it and give some different feedback. But a lot of people don't do that. Some people just get totally floored by that kind of feedback and give up. And that's from an editor. So that person is not a good editor. An editor is meant to look at something and say, okay, I can see what you're trying to do here. How can we do it? How can we improve it? First draft, for a start, is never gold. It is just getting your ideas down. And this is the thing that people really struggle with so much, is wanting it to be perfect first time. And I don't care how seasoned a writer you are, you can't write a first draft that's perfect. And I mean, what the thing about criticism is, it's meant to be constructive. It's not meant to tear you down. And unfortunately, I find a lot of women do this. It's meant to, if you're sharing your heart and soul with someone, you want them to actually look at it from that perspective and come back and say, okay, I kind of get what you're saying, but it doesn't quite work. Let's find another way to do it. And that is actually the role of an editor, is actually to help you find a better way of saying something, or to bring your ideas together. So I think the lesson in that is that, first of all, pick and choose carefully about who you share your writing with. Although this person probably thought, well, this is an editor, they're going to give me good feedback. But one person's opinion also isn't really enough. You need a few different opinions. That's one thing. Also, you have to be a bit thick-skinned when you're sharing your story and get different opinions. I actually, while I was in Adelaide, I went to a few sessions at Writers' Week, and I went to see Marcus Zuzak, and he was talking about Bridge of Clay, which is his latest book, and it has taken him 13 years to write this book. And so there's another lesson in that. Even a seasoned writer like him, I think he has about 5 novels, and The Book Thief, which is one of my favourite books of all time, sold 16 million copies and has been translated into 40 different languages. So, he knows what he's doing, but it still has taken him 13 years to get this book out. I think it's 120,000 words or something like that. But I guess what that means is you need perseverance. I'm not saying take 13 years to write something, but if you really believe in a story, then, you should be persevering with it and getting the right help, whether it's an editor, whether it's just someone to read it and give you some good constructive criticism. It's really, really important. And I guess don't give up. Sometimes you might not feel like you know where you're going with it. That's why writing groups are really, really great, because you might have 6 or 10 people in your group, and so you have lots of different opinions. And this is the other thing. You can have 10 people read your book and you can get 10 different opinions, because it is an expression, it is an art form, and everyone is going to react differently to it. And usually it's about them, not the story that is being told. So that was the biggest sort of aha moment for me, is that people are constantly struggling with this in terms of getting people to help them. And sometimes it takes, just like finding a hairdresser or a dentist that you like, sometimes you need to try a couple of different times, different people, to get that person who connects with what you're trying to do and will actually help you get to that point. So in the last week, I have been talking to a lot of people about publishing, and even though the publishing aspect of the book is actually is quite technical, there have been a lot of discussions about the actual writing of the book, because the publishing side is actually the easy part. Getting the content together is the hard part. So I think, some people have ideas in their head and they think, writing the book's easy. And then when they start, they find it hard and they give up. But like anything, the more you write, the better you get. The more you persevere at something, especially when it's an expression of yourself, it takes a bit of work. And sometimes it's too early. If you're wanting to write a story about trauma that you've experienced, then sometimes you have to wait. Sometimes it's too early. You might be angry about stuff, or you might be too sad about something, or sometimes it's just too early, and you need to wait before you actually get that story out there. In the meantime, I really suggest that you journal a lot, write things down as you think of them, and then when you are ready to write about it, then you are well and truly ready. So that's some lessons that these are things that I actually have always known, but it's actually really interesting to hear, talk to people and hear their struggles, because sometimes when you work in it so much, you actually forget. And I find all of these things even in my own writing. I've been writing a long time, and I still feel lack of confidence, or the old imposter syndrome, all of those kinds of things. And it's really, really important that you just keep pushing through it, keep working at it, keep improving, keep asking the right people for help, and you will eventually get there. Hey Kemi. So in Ararat, I'm amazed how busy Ararat was. I didn't book a night last night, so I arrived in town and I struggled to get a bed, which was amazing. Apparently there's lots of work on wind farms and roadworks and things like that. But I'm really excited I really love coming to these small towns, because they don't get people coming to them. They have to go to the bigger regions or come to Melbourne to see, to get the information that they need. And the beauty of the internet is that, once I connect with people, we can work remotely quite easily. So today I'm going to be talking about publishing options, and same with tomorrow in Ballarat. I'll be talking about publishing options, and then I'll be home. I'll be well and truly ready to be home by then. Today is actually quite cold, and it's a bit of a shock. I've got all my clothes on, not really matching colours, but anyway. So, what else? I love Adelaide. Every time I go to Adelaide, I love it more and more. And there is so much that happens in March. It's really busy. And I really loved hearing Marcus Zuzak speak about his book and the 13 years that it took to write. And one of the little anecdotes that he talked about was when he was editing at the table with his daughter, who was eating cornflakes or something quite noisily, and he asked her if she could be a bit quieter because he's trying to work. And she stopped and she looked at him and she said, "You work?" And it made him realize that, you know, a lot of people don't see writing as work or important. And also the fact that I think she was 12 or something and he hadn't released a book in her whole life. And that was quite a funny, I mean, it was a funny little anecdote, but it also means that, you know, some things take a long time to percolate and to work through. Some of the other great comments were, and I think he worked out over the 13 years that he wrote like one word a day or something like that. So sometimes you can't rush things, I guess, is my point. The other thing is that he persevered with this book because he felt that the story was important, and it's fiction, so it's not like it's something that he, you know, some kind of message that he wants to get across, but he really wanted to share this story with people. We felt it was really important, and so I actually bought the audiobook so that I could listen to it in the car between Adelaide and Ararat. And I did find it a little bit hard to get into because he narrates it, and he's got a good voice, but he's not, I guess, a trained voice actor, and he's got quite a young voice as well. And so that would be the only feedback that I would give the publisher, is that maybe they should have gotten someone else to narrate it. Mind you, people say that the author should be the narrator of the book, and I actually narrated my audiobook, but that's because it's memoir and I actually have quite a young voice, and so I guess it suits it. But I'm also not I don't think I have great diction, and I actually sound really young on voice recording, so I guess that suits. But not every writer is a good speaker or not trained at actually reading out loud. But I'm enjoying it. It's 14 hours of recording, and I think I'm through 4 hours of it so far. It's a real saga. So I won't give it a review yet. I'd like to wait till I'm finished. So that's about it for me today. I just wanted to share some insights into criticism and how you really need to, I guess, push through some criticism, because most criticism that we receive, if it's not constructive, is usually about the person giving it. Jealousy is quite often a big one, where people are giving you negative feedback. Sometimes they're not readers, or they just don't understand the process. And so it is really important to talk to different people and get people who know how to give constructive feedback. In fact, when we do workshops, we have what is called the sandwich method, where you give a positive bit of criticism or a positive feedback, then you might give some negative feedback, which I call constructive criticism, and then some positive feedback, so that the author has, you know, some good things to go away with. But even negative things are things that they can work at. You don't just say, you know, this is terrible writing, this is terrible grammar, or what have you. In fact, I wouldn't be worrying so much about the grammar until it's finished. You really need to worry about getting the story out there first. So I hope you are all writing, and that if you're feeling that the critics out there, or even your own inner critic, is hounding you, then tell them to shut up and just keep writing. Bye.